Welcome to another Secret Influence TV interview. Secret Influence TV is a YouTube channel aimed at helping people become better influencers because influencing people in your communications, in business or personal life is one of the most important skills. We need to be able to influence people to progress our careers, to get jobs at interviews, to market our business and get more customers, to share our message or expertise more widely. Follow me on YouTube and get regular updates on tips about how to be a better influencer or to watch one of the many interviews I do. Today, I'm interviewing Finbarr Bassuah, who is the author, who is the author of the 8 Keys to Successful Living. So welcome, Finbarr. Welcome to Secret Influence TV.
Hey, thanks, Nick. Thanks for having me. Yeah.
So just to start with, what made you decide to write the book?
Okay, that's a good question. Yes, and a big one. Well, so basically, a lot of the life sequences and events actually led to the consideration, of putting together this book, and had some suggestions, obviously, also from relatives, and to publish it as a gift, as a contribution, my contribution to the world. Okay, so basically, this book was written for those primarily, and it goes without saying, right, that it was written for the benefit of those who are living and those who are to come, who are yet to come into existence, moving forward, basically. Uh, yeah, and I think another a bit sad, but another event that sort of like accelerated, let me put it that way, accelerated the publication of this book was like the loss of a dear one, yeah, a relative passing by. I'm
Okay.
being cautious not to, because I don't want to go too deep,
Sure.
on that. So I'm just gonna say, just someone very dear to me. It's a relative, but
Okay.
someone very dear to me. Yeah, without being specific. Yeah, because I don't want to be too emotional.
Oh, no, it's
Yeah,
understandable.
yeah,
So that happened, and that sort of made you have a moment where it just prompted you to sort of take action and write the book. Would you? Has there been
yeah.
a process? Because I mean, obviously, writing a book, it's a challenging project. How long did it take, and how did you approach it?
For me, I did it basically whilst I was more or less in the state of, like being inspired, to actually put the book to put the book together. Because I think it's not you can't well you can't really fake it. Like I'm not sure about other writers, obviously, and other people, but when you're source, let me put it this way, and borrow some words from Kanye West, right? When the source of your inspiration is divine, basically. By divine, I mean, like, I'm not trying to say any mystical, religious stuff. No, I mean literally divine, as in purely coming maybe from the cosmos, for example. Let me put it that way.
Sure.
You cannot really put a pin on it. You cannot box it. You cannot box it into some kind of a rigid frame. So
Okay.
so for me, it was more, okay, I've got the inspiration, I've got the stuff welling up inside me. Time to get it out. So I just
Yes, of course.
sit next to the laptop, the computer, and do it in a blast. Just let it all out, and then we'll do the, like the polishing, and sequencing a bit later on. So that's
Of
that's
course.
that's how it happened.
Who is the book in? Who's the audience intended for? I mean, successful living. I guess we all want to have a successful living, but is your book aimed at particular group of people, or who did you write the book for?
Right, right. Well, maybe let me put it this way. The book, thank you for that question. This book is aimed for, I mean, we are living in very, very, very crazy times, I should say, for let's say, yeah, crazy times. Everybody's aware of that. So I think it's not so wild for me to say this book, is targeted towards humans,
Sure.
because who knows? I mean, there might be people out there who do not identify as human, hey, and I mean, I'm not going to offend anyone by saying, no, how dare you? You're a human, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to go there. So basically, I'll say this, main target of, the main audience for this book is humans, I mean, and human readers. Um, and this is, this book is basically to show the human readers where a world where the experience or concept of inequalities, stuff like discrimination and maybe hopelessness, are unknown, and do not exist. So basically,
Okay.
like, yeah, giving them an insight or a sneak peek, put it that way, into a world where greed, lies, and disregard for human life. Okay, clearly you can see that their biggest qualities are what: greed, deception, and lies.
Of course, yeah, no, but we certainly live in challenging times. That's there's no
Yeah.
doubt about that. I mean, with success and successful living, it can mean different things, to different people. What just how do you define successful living? What's your definition of successful living? Could you sort of give
Right.
it?
Right. Okay. Okay. So this is, yeah, I guess this is where the ties meet the road, right? How do I define success? Right. So before that, I would like to ask one thing, like maybe let's put to the viewers a simple question, to help us set the stage, for my answer, because I think this is a very, very important answer. I mean, a very important question, obviously, which demands a very important answer. So before that, let me say, which came first, right, in human history? The word success, or the concept, or the money, what we know today, or what we call money or currency? And I believe everybody knows the answer to that is success, right? Success was here long before, because success has been with humans, through our evolution, what, for over 50,000 years.
No,
But
no, yes, of course.
money, money, but money as we know it, apparently, I mean, some say, money can go as far as 3,000 years, around the year 1000 BC, maybe. So it's highly ignorant of us if we now in 2022 we try to say or equate money to success and make it synonymous, like, oh, like money means success, or success means. Having set this stage, to know that we are on the same page, I can say that success basically, comes, from the English word success, was taken from the Latin word, which simply means a good outcome, or good outcome, or happy, happy outcome, or result, or to rise up, to ascend. That's what the word itself means. And obviously, in the book, I go a little bit deeper and relate it to humans, to being humans. And so in the book, I defined it as being, I defined, the word success, or success as being, or a successful person as being someone who is, born anew, right? Born anew,
Okay.
knowing what you are, coupled with the understanding of your environment, and how to rightly relate to your fellow humans, and then to your environment, and then to live in harmony with your environment.
Okay, that's interesting. I think that it's certainly what you touched on. I mean, that definitely a success. I think it varies to an extent. It varies across cultures and throughout history. I think, um, to some people, having success could be to be able to provide for your family and and other other perhaps situation cultures. It could be more sort of based around reaching a certain status or position. Um,
Yeah.
so I think it's yeah, something that very much, like you said, looking historically, success is what it means to us has changed over time. Um, I've read your book, and I think it's fair to
Right.
say that there's some you touch on some political and religious sort of aspects to what you talk about.
Mhm.
Um, how important do you think it is to be aware of political or religious influences in society to have a successful living?
Okay. Right. Right. Again, thanks for that question. Yes, perhaps yes, yes. I suppose you've been doing a lot of reading. The book you're digesting the book very well because there are, yes, you can see traces and elements of political or religious things. Let me put it that way in the book. However, this I can definitely I can assure you that this book is neither political nor religious. However, obviously, I mean, because we're living in a modern society now, and society actually, the pillars of society, of modern society, are usually like politics and religion. These are formed somehow, come to form, the pillars of society. Even before business, there is politics and religion. Before business, I mean, it goes with that I was saying.
Sure.
um, so obviously, when we're dealing with with the world, society as we know it, you can't talk or you can't deal in it, in its entirety, whilst neglecting the foundations of the pillars, which are, like I said, politics and religion. So anything is, perhaps you can say, it's coincidental because you
Sure.
can't talk about society. Yeah, you can't really talk about society without political or religious touching on these two pillars.
Okay. Um,
So yeah,
thanks for
that's
sharing
that's
that.
how
Yeah.
that's how I would put it.
Another one of your chapters, you talked about the importance of. I like the expression used. I think thinking not, but not worrying. Um, and I think there's a. I think nowadays we do have we're bombarded with information and distraction is a big thing. I think certainly social media, is this big thing that's demanding our attention all the time,
Correct.
and it's very
Yeah.
with it's very easy, I think, in today, with to overthink things and worry. And I think that's why things like mindfulness is so big. And I just want to ask you, do you think we have more to worry about nowadays? And how do you recommend that people think but don't worry?
Trying to put me on a spot here, about
That's all right.
you think,
Don't
yes,
take
there
it
is
to the
quite a
spot.
lot, there is a lot really to worry about. You can't, I mean, we are not going to bury our heads in the sand, right? Like an ostrich. There is a lot to worry about. I mean, granted, because there are a lot of we have a lot of we're in the age of information, as you said, like the age of, actually, I would go beyond to say the age of like rapid information and accelerated growth, being on top of your game. And with all this news and information, obviously there will be people taking advantage through miseducation, misinformation, and like some people say, fake news, right? Fake news. So definitely all these things, are causing people to, obviously, to worry. And these are, like, things are breaking. Some misinformation is like leading to breakages in relationships, in even work. Like people getting censored or cancelled and whatnot and stuff. We've seen a whole bunch of crazy stuff going on, really.
Sure.
Um, so definitely, this is perhaps one of the most crucial times where it's necessary to be able to identify, to be able to know the difference, like you rightly put, between worrying and thinking, and I always use certain analogies to make it, in this situation. And you can say, for example, you think about it, right? um how can you switch off, right? How can you asking, how can you switch off from worrying? Well, the answers are in the book. But obviously, for the sake of those who don't have the book, and for the viewers, and for those who have even read the book, maybe some may have missed certain points. I'll say that, you know, how do you? I mean, it's like, you need to decide on your own, right? You need to decide. You need to be able to be decisive. worrying, you should know that worrying causes all kinds of diseases, right? Aside from stress and mental depression, you have emotional instability, high blood pressure, uncontrolled weight loss, heart failures, lung and kidney and other, organ failures, and even blood poisoning. And these are factual. I mean, I have a background in, in medical science, so I know what I'm talking about. Maybe your GP might not tell you this, but worrying actually produces all this kind of stuff, including, like including not just stress, it's beyond stress. And these things, can cause organ failures and heart failures and stuff. And no amount of medicine, and stuff is going to really save you from this, is it? So, I mean, the best thing obviously, the pharmaceutical company, for them, they don't mind as long as you're buying their drugs, the best, it's more money for them, more money, but,
Yeah.
but, but, so everything, again, like that's what I was saying, everything falls back on you, yourself, as an individual, as a person, as a human being. What do you really want out of life, right? I mean, if you sit down and have a proper conversation with yourself, look at the man or the woman in the mirror, which is yourself, obviously, and have that kind of, sit down and have that kind of conversation, and stop putting things, such important things, into the back of your mind, and actually, going saying, oh, you don't have time, I've got to go to work, I've got to pick up the kids, I've got to do this. No, 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 no. Because at the end of the day, you come first. Because if you're not there, if you're dead, you're gone. What becomes of the kids? What becomes of your job? What becomes, like the world will still move on, whether you're alive or you're dead. So you might as well just take better care of yourself, you know?
Would you say that it's about then following on from that, knowing what to focus your attention on? Because we yeah, you 100% right, agree. Stress is a killer, and it's known to have all these sort of effects on our health, and to highlight today the importance of mental health, and it is the way forward. Just knowing what prioritizing, what to focus on. Is that what you mean? When you say
Sorry,
what's
can you repeat
important?
that, please? Can you repeat
So
that?
would
You're
you
breaking.
say that it's
Yeah.
about sort of focus? So to avoid overthinking and worrying too much and thinking on the right things, it's about that awareness of what's the important things in our life, and prioritizing what to focus on.
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you. Yes, yes, yes. That's as you rightly said, yes. And then to go even further and beyond, as we've just established what worrying is all about, right? And the effect, let me say the effects of worrying. And then we can do the same for, like you said, thinking, having a proper mental health or state. And thinking basically is, I mean, thinking is, it can be challenging, yes, and it can be quite difficult, especially if you don't know how to do it, or if you're not used to thinking, or if you're not being trained properly, yes, then it gets messy. But as you begin, like that's why this book kind of breaks down like certain things about certain concepts, and breaks down some misconceptions, clarifies things and how to think and all that stuff. It's there, it's in the book, right? So once you begin to think, one of the things you can put a finger on, things you can actually identify to say that, right, I'm thinking, is this is a process that edifies you, that invigorates you, that makes energizes you, the thinking process. So
Sure.
when you're thinking, when you claim to be thinking, and it's not constructive, it's not analytical, it's not edifying, then you know that maybe you're you're backing up the wrong tree, or you're on the wrong path.
Yeah.
So in this case, what do you think is the best course of action? You retract, you come, you step back, and then maybe you approach the whole, whatever it is, that you're dealing with, you're contending with, right? Whatever issue it is, you you start looking at it from a different perspective, from a different angle. And if we start talking about examples and stuff, it will be like we have millions of examples there, but let me just use one example. For example,
Okay.
oh, like you've got like maybe like a bottle of water, right? Maybe like this, like you've got a bottle of water or something, and your baby, let me say your child wants that bottle, but it's expensive. It's like maybe it's £5. Okay, £5 for a bottle of water. You might be, oh, it's too expensive, it's something like that, but maybe it's like very pure water, filtered, properly, has the right balance, pH balance in, which is obviously good for your health. So you should be going for that anyway, and but obviously, then you have to worry about money, right? In purchasing that thing. So instead of saying, "Oh, I don't have that money, I can't do this, blah blah blah," and stuff. No, now this is not thinking. This is worrying. Thinking is, okay, that is it. I want to get that water. It's good for me. It's right. What do I need to get it? Or what do I have to do to get it? Oh, money? Right. How much money? £5 or $5? Right. No problem. How do I get that £5? How do I get that $5? What do I need to do? What do I need to establish? What do I need to do? Now that is thinking. At the end of it, you'll be empowered. Not only will you be empowered, but guess what? You'll be able to make up that kind of money to get that which you wanted to get in the first place anyway.
So
So this
yeah,
is
so
an
it's
example.
like smart thinking in that way. The
Yeah,
way
if
you
you put
think
it
of
that way,
things.
yes.
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, you can put it that way. Yeah.
and so in chapter 3, you talk about
Yeah.
tapping into
Yeah.
untapped power. And you say how the power of a brain is like a computer, and we only use sort of 5 to 7% of our brain's capacity. So obviously that's only a small amount, and um,
Shocking,
meaning that,
actually.
why do you think we use so little of our brain's capacity? And
Well, the
how?
answer
And
is
also, I mean, I'm not asking
mhm.
you to sort of. I mean, I explained it, like medically, but I mean, do you think perhaps if I explain a bit better, by using so little of our brain's capacity, I think we're not reaching our potential. And
Of course, yeah.
how do you think we can reach our potential, use more of
Right.
our brain's capacity? What stops us? So a few questions there.
Okay. What's the yes, yes? This is. I mean, yeah. You showed concern, right? You sound like someone who's very worried, concerned. After the facts are out, he's like, so how can we stop this? How can we progress? How can we move forward? And hopefully like everyone should be asking the same question once they come to that realization, right? Like what you just said. Your question, hopefully, maybe you should be like, maybe I hope you're speaking for a lot of people when you ask this type of questions, because that is really the right path. That's the way forward. These are the traits, the elements, or the qualities of a successful person, right? And a human, let me put it that way, a successful human. Now you're asking about, yeah, why can't we, or why are we not using that, or why is it so low? It's because it keeps increasingly becoming very difficult for humans to engage their mental faculties and to think, because one of the main reasons is because we are no longer taught how to think. It's become foreign to humans, especially those who dare to think, except a very few, obviously a very few, few number of humans. Yes. And the rest are simply, like dead, dead bodies really walking. A typical example is, for example, in this society, right? People fighting to prove, like going over and beyond to, like to offend each other, families, and like wives and parents and children falling out, all to prove, to one another, that women and men are equal. When the very fact, they're trying to say, oh, men are equal, women are equal, when the very fact, the basic fundamental fact, reality, and scientific, undeniable, unequivocally, undisputed fact is that no one human is exactly the same as the other. So by definition, we are not all equal. I mean, even twins, biologically, let's go to the level of biology. Even twins, you see how like some of the twins can have the same, eyes, the same everything, but they are different. They are not equal. What happens to our AI, and then the whole, fingerprinting and all those things, then it'll be like no point, I mean, once
Sure.
we're all equal, that's dead. That's, it's in the age, really. So to add to what you just asked, right? I had a little story, if you can permit me. Story. Last, I think just last week, with someone, an individual. She's a Chinese lady. Came over. to learn to study in London. And then we were speaking, and then she got to realize that I'd been to China. She was shocked, she was surprised, and then asking me, "Oh, how was China?" And so I told her, "Yeah, my where I went, what I was doing in China and stuff like that." And then I asked her, she's at the University of London, and I asked her, she had just come, funny enough, she's just, come to London to study. So I
Okay.
just asked her, oh, right, okay, so tell me, I mean, like, what's her plan? Right? And then straight away she said, she said to me that she hates living in her town, in her own country. She hates it. And I was like, hmm? I was like, okay, I didn't expect that, like that as a first answer, right? so so I said, I said, okay, yeah, when you say you like, why do you say you hate your society? And then straight away she went into what you just asking, what we were just discussing. She said, I mean, in China now, this is just last week. She's telling me, oh, she feels that people in her society, I mean, she was talking about China, right? Where she's from. Obviously, I didn't tell her this, but I said to myself, poor lady, poor girl. It's exactly what's happening here in London. I mean, that's what's happening.
Yeah.
And with someone on over the news today, a certain woman she's trending on YouTube. I saw the video yesterday, and then she's saying how she was with, is it Piers Morgan or some other people? Yeah,
Okay.
they're all British, and they're talking about schoolboys. Some women are talking for the schoolboys and saying, look, where the whole toxic femininity is going is bad because now little like schoolboys, they're talking about school children. They said schoolboys are afraid, they're all afraid to even express themselves, and they've become neutered, and using
Sure.
strong words, they become neutered, and where is this society going?
I
And
mean,
one lady just says, yes, 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 I'm happy. The boys, they should really be afraid. They should really be afraid. And then people just took that and said, see where our society is going. And it's really terrible. I mean, how can you say the right, little school boys should be afraid? Then this person, I wouldn't even consider such a person to be a human, let alone a mother. You can't be a mother, to sit there and say, to be jubilating that little boys, in school, primary school and beyond, and below, are being emasculated and being neutered.
I mean, I guess,
You're you're happy. I mean, where are we going? You know?
yeah. I mean, I think that one of the this reflects the growth in technology and the way we sort of interact through social media. Is that a lot of these arguments or differences of opinion or discussions we have around um, politics or equality, or we've always had these, but with social media now we can have them, with people around the world. We're aware of these issues more because they spread more. We're just, I think there's before we've always had, some before social media and internet. We would always be having these discussions around the world
Mm,
about about equality and politics, and but now it's obviously everything's you can discuss it in the world. You can raise these issues in the world, and I think that's the that's one of the biggest changes.
yeah.
Would And just to move on, would you
Mm.
you touch on leadership in your book,
Oh,
and I just
and
wanted to
sorry,
ask you
before
about.
that,
Oh,
okay.
sorry.
Before that, I just wanted to add to make another analogy with the whole, thing about how to use the mind, right?
Sure.
So yeah, and yeah, uh basically the mind, like using your mind, right, and thinking, it's a bit, it takes time, you need to practice. It's just like for every human. Once you're born, right, obviously once you're born intact as a full human being. I know you're a baby, or you're a teenager, you're an adult, haven't reached puberty, blah blah blah, regardless of what you think, you are human, complete
Sure.
human. No one is born and then, like 5 years later they grow ears, 5 years, another 10 years later they grow eyes and stuff. No, no, you're born complete, you're born full human. I mean, yeah.
Sure.
uh so just as you're exercising every single day, every part of your, like your body, the same, it's exactly the same with your mind, with your brains. And if you're unable to use that, it becomes lethargic, it goes into some kind of deep stasis, just like your arms. Imagine if you're not able to, if you're not going to the gym, exercising, lifting weight, and let's say you stop using your legs for 20 years,
Sure.
for about 20 years. What do you think is gonna happen? You're gonna have some kind of atrophy, muscle atrophy. Your muscles are going to wither away. It's gonna be like pencil or mosquito legs. It's gonna be all your
Yeah.
all your cells are gonna die around your legs, and you will not be able to stand on your feet after 20 years. Then you'll have to start with the whole treatment, nourishment, go on therapies and whatnot to be able to come back to using your feet, your legs.
So do you
And
believe
it's
in
exactly
brain
the same.
training? That you should train your brain, challenge your brain so that your mind is kept sharp
Sharp
and focused. Is that something you
and
think?
active.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
it.
yeah,
Brain
yeah. And,
training.
and that, yeah, you're right. And that's where that statement comes in.
Sure.
Iron sharpens iron, right? I mean, you
Yeah.
can't you can't sharpen an iron using the wood.
Just very briefly, leadership skills, are they
Mhm.
something, people natural born leaders, or leadership skills something you can learn? Briefly, give me your thoughts on that.
Right. Okay. So right. Leadership. Yes, you're right. The book, I talk about leadership. And you answer. I mean, the answer. Your answer is in twofold. I can give you the answer, but it will be in twofold.
Okay.
First of all, yes, people definitely is. There is the undeniable fact that people are born. There are a few, not many. There are a few who are actually born. Like naturally having this intrinsic leadership skills. Yes, myself being one, obviously, because sometimes like, and you clearly, because there is, well, some people call it like the magnetism, I believe, that they have. And this is one of the traits. It's either like you have it or you don't, but there are other traits that one can develop, let me put it that way, or learn. You can, and even if you're born with like maybe you're born with certain leadership traits, all of which are listed in the books, obviously, in, I believe, chapter 8. No, sorry, chapter 7. You're in chapter 7, correct? Yeah, chapter 7, it talks about leadership, and it gives you insight into how to be an extraordinary leader.
That's it.
Now, the book, there's a matrix. I created a matrix because the whole thing about leadership is also very big, like it's big. But today, when people talk about leadership, they just think of politics, like political leadership. That's what most people think about today. But there are a lot more, aspects and dynamics to the whole aspect of leadership and being a leader. And this book, goes deep in all of that, and then helps you you know to be able to identify certain key skills and how to basically rise above, to ascend, and to be like to be in your best possible
Okay.
state. And
Sure.
this is what it means to be, again, success. Going back to the definition, right, in Latin, it means to rise up. So if you're
Right.
able to be the best possible self you can be, and that is also in itself showing or going to prove again that you are what, successful. And
Okay.
so yeah, so to learn about these leadership skills, I think the right thing to do would be to have a proper read on chapter 7, just digest, try and digest everything really there. And if you need to get in contact, yes, there's the email there, in the book, in the back of the book, you can do that as well. And join, you can join the Discord, you can join us, with, whilst we talk about, because there are communities, that we've created
Okay.
basically from this, from these topics. And then we have people, talking daily about these things. And you can email me to basically, yeah, to be added to the groups, or to
Okay.
create your own
Okay.
group. Yeah.
Um, so I will share your contact details at the end. Just a couple more questions.
Mhm.
Good habits. Habits. What we do regularly, whether they're good habits or bad habits, or what can define or direct the way we live our lives. can you just share a couple of habits or actions that you do regularly? Positive ones that you think
Right.
help yourself.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, sure, sure. Well, for me personally, I have the habit of thinking. So every day, what do I mean? Every day I think, and whenever a situation or events, let me put it that way, events try to influence or sway me to worry, which we touched on earlier. Guess what I do? Exactly the same advice we're talking about. I'm giving you and the viewers. I use the same thing because it works. It's proven to work. So it's no point even changing what's not broken.
Sure.
So I stop myself immediately from doing that, from worrying, from straying from the righteous path. Let me put it that way. Let me
Okay.
borrow some. Let me borrow some religious terminologies here. Righteous path. Okay, or basically to be on the edifying path. Let me put it. Let me make it in religion neutral and say on an edifying path. Okay, a path that will edify you, will strengthen and invigorate you, will make you more alive and
Okay.
help you to grow. Okay, because we're talking about what success, and this is what it means to be a successful human being. And
Okay.
this success we're talking about should be able to permeate, should radiate every aspect, every part of your life. Not just I've got £1 million in my bank account. Yeah, but I've got a toxic mind. I've got
Sure.
yeah, I've got like a destroyed, disfigured body from abusing my own body, through maybe bad habits, like excessive eating or just taking drugs or alcohol and all kinds of like bad substances, basically, just mashing up your body. Let me put it that way.
Sure.
You're destroying your body.
Yeah.
That's not really success, is it? So or yeah, it's anyway. Let's not get too deep into that.
Yeah.
um Back to the whole thing about habit. um it's a bit like an internal battle. It becomes an
Sure.
internal battle. You need to practice, and with time, so you need to practice, you see, and with time you will definitely begin to, let me say, worry less. You worry less and you focus more. You'll be the scale
Okay.
will
Reducing
tip.
down. Okay.
Exactly, will tip towards you becoming um more of an erudite, being very smart, being very calculating, being able to think uh correctly, and then to
Okay.
think at the right frequency, at the right wavelength, and to basically to be able to see the world and to see reality for what it really is.
Sure. Yeah, I
And
guess
yeah,
yeah, um, what I liked about your book was it's obviously there's a lot to think about and a lot to not enough time on this interview to talk about every aspect of it, but it's about sort of challenging your way of thinking, and I think to have
true.
successful living you've got to constantly challenge yourself and try and adopt good habits. I we are coming to the end of our interview, Finbarr. But just to ask you, one, do you have any plans of follow-up book? And also, how do people get hold of your book? If they're interested in what you said and they want to read it, where can they get hold of it?
Right. Okay, to answer the part first about the follow-up books. Yeah, there are, yes, definitely. Yes. Hey, you're trying to make me reveal to reveal all the secrets. Oh, I suppose, yeah, well, good, because we're in the Secret Influence TV show, so not bad, not bad. um yeah, I've got a few other books actually, which were started. Some of them were started right around the same time as this book, the eight keys to successful living. So what I'm doing is some of those books had to be put on hold, because of other contending issues and other things that had or needed my attention. So now that things are a bit more clearer and I'm a bit more free with my time, I will be going back into those, like to sort of resurrect those other books, which are already in the pipeline. And
Sure.
yeah, and we've got, like I said, we've got, like, we're building networks and communicating with other people from not just in England, but like in the US, especially US,
Okay.
and then other parts of Asia. So So it's good. I mean, things are looking good, and yeah, and hopefully
Yeah, well,
you're working
keep me
towards.
posted, and if you,
Yeah.
I'll have to get you back on for another interview about your next book when you're ready.
Yeah,
Follow up.
yeah, sure. And thank you. And about where you can get the books. I mean, you can Google it. You can just uh once you just Google the 8 keys to successful living. Um, you can, I mean, maybe try Amazon, because my book is on Amazon, Amazon.com or Amazon.co.uk. You can find these copies on the Book Depository, Book Inc. You can find them at the bookshops in England here, Blackwell's, for example,
Okay.
or Barnes and Nobles in the States, in the United States, and Powell's Books or BAM, Books a Million or Bookmans. Yeah. So these are just a few places you can find them.
Great. Well, thank you so much for your time, Finbar. We're going to have to draw our interview to a close.
in her own words. She says they're mad there in her, you know, town or city in China because the people living in that society, you know, they are having needless gender war and constantly
Okay.
arguing and fighting on social media. You know, there's a big fight between males and females, and she herself, as an individual, is even afraid to express herself